All right. Next up. Realizing that the loss of the spark came from losing your fear of dying. The fear of losing those you love also does not seem strong enough to ground your actions. The question becomes, what do you fight for? So this was an interesting one to me. This kind of came to me randomly when I was grinding away on some classes that I did not enjoy. But essentially, I started to realize that the spark for me, I kind of covered this in the last video, but the spark for me was survival. The big deal was taking, what had occurred to me and just getting to a point of stability so I can learn to become one that tries to give more than one takes, which I would say is what is, the definition or my definition of a functional member of a humanistic society, whatever. And for that reason, for the past 5 years, my goal was simply just to kind of thug it out and make it work, become authentic, learn the details, figure out my own survival mechanisms, and then ball out. I have successfully come to the ball out stage, except the ball out stage is new and unknown, so therefore it feels like I'm actually struggling to ball. I feel like I'm being handed a basketball, but I just learned that I had arms yesterday, or I just got a new pair of arms that I've never used in my life. So I need to train my brain on how to use these dang things while also being put as a starter in the Olympics for basketball. Whatever you want to call it, imagery is a myth. I'm just saying it feels a little odd. And now that I've come to this point of not really fearing death, because I feel like I've kind of overcome this one big fear that I had in my life, and I've come to this point of maybe satisfying, I have dead friends, and my big deal was to try and devote my life to making theirs worthwhile, or at the very least, if they're watching me from their, state of past, if they're watching me from a state of death, whether you believe in religion or not, if they can observe what I do, I want to make sure my actions are dedicated to the point. I want to make sure my actions would approve their opinions, because their death feels like part of me. So at the end of the day, I would just be, pleasing myself indirectly, or at the very least, doing things that I myself would approve of. But that's a pretty deep question I'm not going to get into right now. The point is that I used to be afraid of dying, and that was my core motivator. And now it seems like I'm no longer afraid of that, because it feels like I've conquered this beast that I no longer imagine. It's like the feeling when you beat a video game and you're walking around, this huge map, you got all the things that you could ever imagine. You got every single gadget and gizmo in the game. And you're knocking out the remaining details. They're checking off all the random boxes that are left over, but you have this feeling in your mind that it's going to end. Or not that it's going to end, but that the hardest part is over. And it's no longer going to be, it's all downhill, right? It's all, difficulty is going down. And this could just be me, but when I know that things are going to get easier, I feel discontent because I like challenge. Surprise. But I guess the question then becomes, if survival is no longer my fight, then what is it? And I covered this briefly for a moment before my phone ran out of storage a few minutes ago, and I had to delete a few videos, but I'm going to dive into it briefly in terms of, what do you fight for after you've quote unquote won the game? The question is, are you the only player in the game? Obviously, I'm recording this video, you're listening to it. There's at least 2 people in this game that we call life. So if we know that there are more people in this game, it's not safe to assume that everyone has beaten the game. And for that reason, you can take your expertise, assuming my case of surviving negative mental health situations and negative behaviors, and coming out as someone who feels relieved and satisfied to exist just because of existence' sake. I know a lot of people who are not feeling that same way. Now, I don't exactly feel the level of drive to, devote my entire life to spending everything one-on-one becoming a therapist, because I believe that I can deliver more value into this world by doing mental health supports passively, while also creating more value, maybe in the field of business, in the field of engineering. But the point is, you can, after you've survived a negative, or after a negative thing happens to you, if this was like an XY chart of good behavior, bad behavior, time, you can either, you can do more good things, or you can do more bad things. And this is regardless of whether or not you like survive, or like you come out positively or come out negatively. This is the pathway. And you can spiral either way. So if you spiral upwards, you start procreating positive results, and you're kind of like a hero. You're helping other people solve their problems and find their calm in the world when, they could be in the Philippines getting hit with a hurricane, but you're out here in Nevada chilling on a, cool desert night. The point is to try and, I guess, use the straw of communication that is this YouTube video and do your best to provide perspective and counsel that may aid them in learning other ways to deal with potential discomfort and lead them ultimately to their success. However, there's the opposite, which is the villain framework, which is, something bad happens to you. You either, you claim a victim, or you fall into a negative habit, or whatever the case could be. And for that reason, your presence simply drags down other people instead of actually boosting them up from that negative experience. So in other words, you let the negative experience poison more people, and you become a super spreader of bad. And these are very high level terms. This is a very not a logical argument by any means, or a logical statement or a speech by any means, so please don't take this too seriously. But I definitely did want to say that when it comes to boiling down everything that I want to do, now that I've come to this point of, quote unquote healing or quote unquote recovery, my goal is to fight for the peace, fight for the positive life and better things in the lives of those who I may never know. Hence this video and this content, this whole channel being made. And the goal is to fight for that while also, venturing down new roads. Because I believe that there's more to be done. So my goal is to kind of be a source of perspective for people who may not ultimately have, someone in their life who may be able to give them that perspective, or someone in their life who may have quote unquote made it out and survived to the level that, someone may believe. Obviously these are emotional things, so some people may only want to talk to person A compared to person B because person A either looks like them or has done something similar to them, whereas person B may have experienced something completely different, but although they got out and they felt recovered, they were never in the exact situation that the other person, you or the audience, had experienced. And for that reason, there's bias toward person A for the latter. This conversation is getting a bit off topic, but to rationalize and complete this statement, my goal is to fight for the well-being of others through the passive presence of this content being available. Hope this helps you guys.